Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make chicken and rice soup. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this, and there really isn't a lot going into it. I mean, really your main ingredients are your chicken and your rice and your vegetables. It's not hard to make this. It doesn't take a long time to make this, and the best thing is, as cooler weather, cold weather moves in, it's nice to have a hot soup sometimes to eat, and this actually fits the bill. And it's very filling because you have the rice in there, which is going to help fill you up. But on top of that, you have a decent amount of chicken going into this and your vegetables. So it's just one of those things where it's easy to make, and really this is a crowd pleaser if you're making it for lunch for a few people. So go ahead and take a carrot and cut it into smaller pieces. Now, if you have a really thick carrot like I have, you might want to actually cut this a couple of times to make sure they're smaller pieces, because remember, these have to go on a spoon, and if you put them on the spoon with the chicken, the rice, the celery, the onion, and everything else, you need a little bit of room on there. So just go ahead and cut this up, and as you get to the larger part of the carrot like I did, I just cut it down the middle and then actually came and cut across it again to make it smaller. And you can still cut it smaller than that if you want to, because honestly that was a big carrot. So go ahead and set that to the side, and then we're going to go ahead and take a stalk of celery, cut it down the center, and then slice across it. Just to remind you, the smaller you cut the pieces of the vegetable, the more likely they're going to cook better. You don't want them to be hard in your soup and not really taste well, so we just don't want to deal with that. So slice it small, go through your whole thing here, and then we have a medium onion which we're going to cut up. So basically I just cut across the onion and then flip it over and then cut across that, and then just slice through it until I get small pieces. It's your choice how big a hunk you want of onion in this. I say err on the side of the smaller as possible, because just so the fact that, again, it fits on the spoon, but it's going to cook down some, so it's okay. It's no big deal. So go ahead and just cut through this until you get it to the point where you feel good about it. And these are our vegetables. It was that easy. So we're going to take 2 chicken breasts. We're going to cut off any fat that they may have, because, you know, sometimes they have it. And cut off any tough pieces around the side, because one side of this usually is kind of tough. And then we're just going to cut across it maybe 2 times, and then flip it around and then cut it into smaller pieces. Now if you wanted to try to cut this into cubes, that works perfectly fine. Otherwise, just thin slices work really well, because we want this to cook up really well when we add it to our pot. So just go ahead and slice through all of this. Just don't make them huge hunks. Again, still has to fit on that spoon. And just work your way through both your breasts here. Now, and mind you, if you wanted a little bit of extra chicken in this, you could probably add in another smaller breast just to give it more. But this actually works out quite well with the 2 decently large pieces that I had. So once we get this done, you are going to need something like a large pot or a Dutch oven. I'm using a Dutch oven. We're going to add into this 2 tablespoons of butter, which is on medium-high heat. We're going to start melting these a little bit, and once they get pretty much melted, we're going to bring those vegetables in here and start cooking them. So just get that melted as best you can, and then bring in your vegetables. Now, once we get these vegetables in, we're going to try and cook these for at least 5 minutes or so. We want to try to soften them up before we do anything else to them or add anything to it. We just want to make sure we don't have any hard pieces of carrot or anything like that, because carrot takes a minute to cook. So go ahead and mix this up, stir it up. We don't want it to sit too long because we don't want to scald anything on the bottom, but we do want to actually get this moved around until it's really cooked through. And like I said, about 5 minutes ought to do it. And then after this, we are going to add 2 more tablespoons of butter to this. And then once we get that melted down a little bit, we're going to bring in our chicken. And the chicken is going to cook with the vegetables at this point. Now you're going to need to cook this chicken for over 10 minutes or so, because we don't see any pink left in this. But we're going to actually stir it through with the vegetables, and that gives all the vegetables a chance to cook some more, and that's really wonderful to have them cooking like that. So once we get this in, move it around a little bit, and we're going to add a bunch of seasoning to this. So once we get everything set up, and there's the list of this. So here we go. A half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of paprika, and a half a teaspoon of chicken seasoning of your choice. This is just a generic seasoning. It's just going to give you a little bit of an edge of a taste. That's a lot of seasoning. So once we get it in there, we're going to mix it through and make sure it gets through all of the vegetables, the chicken, and everything. And we are going to let this cook, again, like I said, over at least 10 minutes, maybe even 15. And make sure that nothing there is pink anymore, because we don't want pink on our chicken. We want it cooked through. So as it's sitting during this time cooking, you want to move it around a little bit. You don't want anything set up shop on the bottom and burning. So just go ahead and move it about. And as you're seeing, it's going to actually cook up really decently as you go along. But we just want to make sure that we get it to the point where everything is cooked through. And then after that, we're going to add some more things to this. So go ahead and keep mixing. And after we get it to a good point, we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. And once that's in there, we're going to let it cook for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute, because we want to get the flavor through, but we don't want to overcook that minced garlic, because if you do overcook it, it's literally going to get a really bad taste to it, something we really don't want to deal with. So just go ahead, check your chicken, make sure everything is good in there, and then once you get to the point where you feel there is no pink anywhere, then bring in the minced garlic. So as you can see with mine, this is looking really well. I mean, there really isn't any pink in this at all to have to deal with, and that's a really wonderful thing, to make sure that, you know, the pink, it just means you're not cooked enough. So we just want to make sure that it's all gone. And then after that, we'll just make a room in there for us to add in the minced garlic. Now, the whole time this is cooking, we want to keep an even high temperature in our pot or whatever we're cooking it in, just to make sure that, you know, it doesn't have a problem of keeping its temperature, because eventually once we get ready to add in more liquid and stuff like that, the temperature will drop. We're going to have to let it come back up before we add anything to this. So the minced garlic is in at this point. We're just going to move this around a little bit and get it mixed through. And then after this, we're going to add in other things to actually help this become a soup. And coming up, the next thing you're going to need is a can of cream of chicken soup. And that's going to be a 10.5 ounce can. And we're going to dump that right in on top of everything that's already in here. And once we add these things to it, we're going to actually start to the point where we're almost done with having everything in here that we need. So once the soup is in, then you're going to come in after this with 2 cups of rice and then 6 cups of chicken broth. And we're just going to put this all together at this point, because really this is everything you need in your pot once you get these next 2 ingredients in to actually let this cook. Now once it starts cooking, we do want to cook for at least 25 minutes to make sure that rice cooks thoroughly. But mix in your soup that you already just put in there, and then we're going to bring in the rice. And like I said, 2 cups of rice, and then 6 cups of chicken broth. Now, if you think that there's not enough liquid in there for the fact that maybe you had extra chicken, extra vegetable, whatever, you can add a little water to this. Like you could put up to like a cup of water in it extra if you needed to. It's not going to affect the flavor of it. But you still need to let this bring it up to temperature and cook for 25 minutes for that rice to actually cook thoroughly. So, and once it's all mixed up, this is it. This is what we're doing. And what's really great about this, as you can see when you start up, there's a lot of this here. Just make sure that when you're cooking it, you don't really go much over 25 minutes, because the longer you cook the rice, the more poofier it's going to get, the more thicker it's going to get. But this is what mine looked like in a bowl, and I have to tell you, this was something really great to eat. I think you just might like it. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.